Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a fascinating reality check today. We're going to look at what actually happens behind the scenes when a mobile app is built and published. There's this kind of romanticized idea out there that being an app developer just means writing some code, hitting upload, and sitting back. But the reality is far more complex and honestly a lot more interesting. Today, we're going to break down where your app actually lives, uncover the hidden maintenance costs, talk about the absolute truth regarding making money, and look at the exact tools you're going to need to build a modern application completely from scratch.
Here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, where do apps actually live? Second, we'll compare offline versus online apps. Third, we're diving into the app monetization reality. And finally, building the back-end stack. Let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a pretty fundamental question. You finish your app, you upload it to the Play Store, where does it live and who's maintaining it? It's a super common myth that once you hit that upload button, Google just magically steps in and handles absolutely everything for you. But the reality, it's quite different. The responsibility is actually split right down the middle. And honestly, understanding this divide is your very first step in transitioning from a hobbyist to a serious developer.
All right, part one. Where do apps actually live? Let's establish that crucial boundary between the tech giant's job and your job.
Okay, so this essentially perfectly illustrates the divide. Google provides the massive global distribution infrastructure, but you are entirely on the hook for the application itself. Think of it this way. When you upload your app's package file, like an APK, Google hosts it on their massive data centers. They use content delivery networks, or CDNs, so a user in Tokyo downloads your app just as incredibly fast as someone in New York. They also handle security scanning with Play Protect. But the application itself, the core experience, that is 100% on you. You're the one fixing the bugs, writing the patches, replying to user reviews, and maintaining the back-end servers. If you build a simple calculator, sure, Google hosts the file. But if your app relies on a database to function, you are the one hosting and paying for that database.
Moving right along to part two, offline versus online apps. Do you actually need a massive, expensive cloud setup for every app? Spoiler alert, you don't.
If you're building a simple utility, think along the lines of a calculator, a flashlight app, a unit converter, or just a basic note-taking tool. That app lives entirely on the user's device. These are offline apps. What this means practically for you as a developer is that you do not need Amazon Web Services, Azure, or Google Cloud at all. Zero cloud required. You literally just package your code, upload it to the Play Store, and you are totally done. All the processing happens right there on the user's phone CPU, not on some distant server. It's an absolutely perfect starting point if you're a beginner.
However, if your app needs to do things like sync data across devices or let users log into accounts, like WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, or your favorite food delivery app, well, that is when you have to introduce a back-end server into the mix. These are online apps. They absolutely require a separate computer somewhere else in the world to store those user accounts, route messages, and trigger push notifications. You simply cannot build a social media platform that lives purely offline on one person's phone.
Now, while a backend is absolutely essential for those online apps, you aren't forced to jump straight into the deep end with massive, incredibly complex cloud providers. Yes, AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure are the industry heavyweights, but honestly, for a beginner, trying to manage those can be totally overwhelming. You can absolutely start with simpler alternative hosting options like DigitalOcean or Hetzner. Or even better, a ton of independent developers rely on Firebase, which is actually owned by Google. Firebase handles your databases, your user authentication, and your notifications without you ever having to manually configure a server. It's an incredible bridge into back-end development that saves you a massive headache.
Okay, on to part three. Let's shatter the biggest illusion in app development, the monetization reality.
Notice the harsh data here on the screen. These are some rough AdMob estimates, specifically tailored to an India-focused market. Look at how vastly the active user count drops compared to the initial raw downloads. It's wild. If you get 1,000 downloads, you might realistically only have 100 to 300 monthly active users. And the revenue from that? Maybe 20 to 200 rupees a month? It isn't until you hit massive scale, like 1 million downloads yielding perhaps 100,000 active users, that you start seeing something resembling a full-time business revenue. And keep in mind, these are just rough estimates. Things like where your users are physically located play a massive role. An ad shown to a user in the US or Europe is generally going to pay out significantly more than an ad shown elsewhere.
Let's look at a really direct contrast to drive this home.
Say App A had a huge marketing push, 100,000 downloads. Sounds amazing, right? But it has terrible retention. Only 1,000 people actually open it regularly. App B, on the flip side, only had 20,000 downloads, but a staggering 10,000 of them are highly active users. In the real world, App B is going to earn significantly more money than App A, despite having just a fraction of the total downloads. It is a leaner, much more profitable business simply because people actually keep using it.
So, the core takeaway here is super simple. Downloads get people through the front door, but active users are the ones actually generating revenue. Downloads are what we call a vanity metric. They look fantastic on a chart, they feel really great to brag about, but vanity metrics do not pay your server bills. Active, engaged users who consistently open your app, view the ads, or pay for a subscription, they are the actual economic engine of your entire product.
As your app grows, you're generally going to hit these 4 specific milestones. Getting to that first 1,000 downloads, that's really just validation. It proves that people actually want the thing you built. Hitting 10,000 downloads is where you start to learn the ropes of monetization, and you might actually see your first meaningful bit of ad revenue. Now, reaching 100,000 downloads is where this transitions into a very healthy potential side hustle. And finally, breaking that 1 million download mark, that is where you have the real potential for a full-time business, provided, of course, that those users are actually staying active.
Because of all this, the most successful developers out there completely stop obsessing over the download counter. Instead, they fiercely focus on these 3 core strategies. Number 1, solving a real problem for the user. Number 2, keeping users coming back by building features that actually create daily utility. And number 3, monetizing without annoying your users. If you just spam your users with unskippable ads every 30 seconds, your retention is going to completely tank, and your revenue will vanish right along with it.
Finally, part 4. Building the back-end stack. Let's get highly practical about the tech you actually need. The great news is, you weren't boxed into just one language for your servers. It's like picking your favorite tool from a toolbox. You could use JavaScript and Node.js to keep your front-end and back-end entirely in the same language, which is super convenient. If you want maximum approachability, Python is fantastic. For massive enterprise scale, Java and C# are absolute giants, while Go is going to give you raw, blistering speed. And Kotlin is brilliant too, because it bridges Android app development and back-end services pretty much seamlessly.
Now, alongside your chosen language, you're going to need an industry-standard database to store all that data. Think PostgreSQL or MySQL. Then, you need your maintenance toolkit. You've got Git and GitHub to track your code changes. You've got Docker, which is an absolute lifesaver because it ensures your application runs identically on your local laptop as it does up in the cloud server. And, of course, tools like Postman and Grafana to test and monitor the health of your whole system.
So, if you're feeling overwhelmed, here is a battle-tested 6-step roadmap that independent developers use all the time to build complete online apps entirely by themselves. You start with PostgreSQL for your data, then JavaScript and Node.js for your server logic, move into React Native for cross-platform mobile development, maybe pick up some Kotlin for Android-specific tweaks, and finally, learn Docker to deploy the whole shebang. Master even a subset of this path, and you basically possess the superpower to build the entire system yourself. But look, as you begin this journey, remember to keep your priorities straight. Honestly, do not worry about revenue on day one. Actually, scratch that. Don't even think about AdMob algorithms before you've written a single line of code. Your initial focus absolutely must be on building something genuinely useful. Just publish it. Get that harsh, real-world feedback. Improve the app based on what users actually tell you, and eventually you can learn App Store optimization so people can actually search for it. Keep in mind, some of the most massively complex apps out there today started as incredibly simple tools that just solved one single problem exceptionally well.
So, armed with this reality check on how apps are truly hosted, maintained, and monetized, knowing that active users are way more important than sheer downloads, and that the right backend stack can literally empower you to build empires right from your laptop, the only question left to ask yourself is, what simple problem are you going to solve first? Get out there, start building, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.